And we are back. Today we have something really special for you. Not only is this the first episode of our show, but this is our first special guest that we have for the show as well. This is none other than Mr. Chris McCall. And for those of you that don't know, Chris is running for the state's attorney. That election is going to be coming up soon. We're going to talk a little bit about it and why he should be the man for you. Full endorsement, Titus certified right here, Mr. Chris McCall.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, sir. Before we get in depth, I had the pleasure to have a friendship with Mr. McCall, and so does Brian. Titus, y'all brought us, my guy. But we want to tell the people a little bit about Chris McCall and his upbringing in Peoria, and what were the motivating factors and things that happened to get you to this point.
Well, I'm born and raised in Peoria, Illinois, first of all. I'm the parent of two daughters, married to my wife, Tiffany. She's a RN nurse. She actually went to Central. We met at Central. I am as well an attorney, and my parents were Dr. Roscoe and Geraldine McCall out of Peoria. I grew up and attended Richwoods, and before that, Mark Bills in Charter Oak, and played basketball at Mark Bills, and didn't have as much success as this man over here. But I did that, and I played football at Richwoods High School, and decided at that point to go to a Big Ten school, and I went to University of Illinois for undergrad and law school, and prior to that I also attended Illinois Central College. And the reason I decided to give back to the community, at least put every effort to do so, is because there were individuals that helped me growing up, and they always gave back. My father actually coached a little league team that he financed himself down on the south end of town, Proctor Center, and we all played baseball over there, and we learned how to be young boys and grew up in the men, and wanted to get back.
That's awesome. You also have a practice, right? Correct.
I do.
Tell everybody about how that came about. What motivated you to get your own practice?
Well, I used to be an assistant state's attorney for Peoria County, and I did that for a couple of years, and I wanted to make sure that I changed the system. And being that I was such a young attorney, at that point I was 25 years old, I knew that the best way to change the system was from the inside out. And so I decided to open up McCall offices in April 2005, and I started that with just literally a rent check, a credit card, in a hallway that had no air conditioning on Knoxville, 2708 North Knoxville. I started it that way, and my very first case, it was a custody case. I was moving in the furniture, set up the computer. This young woman, I'll never forget, she came to the office. She had $400 in the custody case, and she said, "This is all I got." $400, and I said,
That's not enough. It's not enough.
It wasn't enough, but of course I had no experience and I had no income coming in, so kind of like growing up, your parents would tell you, make it happen.
Make it work.
Make it work. And so we made it work.
Make it enough.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like the scene in Friday. Make it
$2, make it enough.
Yeah, so we made it happen, and ever since then, we've been very successful.
Awesome.
Please.
Perfect. Now, we actually have put a feeler out ahead of time and got some feedback from people that are in this community and even on the outskirts. And some of those questions we went ahead and jotted down to present for him today. So one of the questions is from Janice. And her question is, why would you want to give up everything that you've accomplished this far to go and pursue the state's attorney's position? When you work so hard as an attorney, why give that up? What's your motivation behind that?
My motivation is the people. What I mean by that is the state's attorney is the chief law enforcement officer of the county, and it would be my job to keep you safe. And I truly believe that the way we've been working cases and we've been prosecuting is actually making us less safe. What I mean by that is we have a very high incarceration rate, especially for juveniles. We have the second highest juvenile incarceration rate in the state. Our murder rate has increased 95% over the past 5 years. And on the other hand, only 10% more people are calling the police. And so what you have here is essentially the Wild Wild West.
Right.
You have a situation where we are becoming more and more of a dangerous society, and people aren't calling the police. And so there needs to be a trust built back up between the community and police, and we need more intervention programs so we can break that cycle of criminality where we have right now.
Okay.
So that's why I decided to do this.
Now, as you discuss that, let's go back a little bit on that subject. Now, people talk about the numbers and they talk about the increase in the murder rate. Where do we start?
The way we start, and I know this is going to sound naive, is we start at the home. And what I mean by that is I truly understand, and I'm not naive in the sense that I truly understand that we have parents now that are working 2 and 3 jobs. When we grew up, and Titus, full disclosure, we used to play together growing up. There were often 2 parents who worked 1 or 2 jobs. Now we live in a society where we have 1 or 2 parents that are working 3 jobs to make ends meet. And we also have social media now. And so social media tells us that everyone who's on social media that we don't know, they're perfect. People don't understand that to put something on Instagram, it may take 30 takes. And so I think it is very important that we go into the communities, we go into the schools, and we talk about criminality. We talk about triggers. We talk about traumas. If you're being bullied, we need to tell people where to go.
Right.
You know, and if we go into the schools, there's a big thing now where kids are where they like to fight and jump each other.
Yes.
And so they need to understand that if you break into someone's home and you jump that person, that's not a fight.
Right.
That's called home invasion.
You're right. Exactly.
Home invasion can get you 6 to 30 years of prison. And so I think it's important that we let people know where they stand if they're going to come into the courthouse. I believe that we need to have a proactive approach to crime, not a reactive approach to crime. What I mean by that is let's go into communities and talk to people. Let's go into the schools. Let's go into the senior citizens' homes. Let's go into the churches and talk about crime trends in Peoria. If more and more people are leaving their cars unlocked, and that's something that's happening in a certain segment of the population, we need to go where that crime is occurring, explaining to people, hey, reminder, lock your cars.
Right, yes.
Because we don't want people to lose their independence because they think everything is good.
Right.
When people have to understand that there are more victims in Peoria County than there are criminals. And so we need to make sure that we protect people from becoming victims.
Yes.
So I think that's very important. That's something I want to change.
Well, and you hit on a key thing is that you have to be proactive, and that doesn't mean that you sit back and in hindsight judge events and base your entire presence on those. What he's saying is that he actually goes into these places to try to be that change. I don't know many state's attorneys, if any, that do that, and I certainly don't know any attorneys that do that in general. This is something that he's been doing, and he does it outside of the law office. There's not always a camera attached to what this man does, and this is one of the things where I know what I'm dealing with. I know that his heart's in the right place, and I know that he'll do what it takes to make the change that we're all seeking. And he struck on a good note. The words never change. It's always been unity. Without that, there's nothing. So trying to bridge that gap is something that he does on a daily basis. So him taking that to the next level, as far as the state's attorney goes, it can only affect positive change to me. And I mean, would you agree?
I agree totally. What I would like to also ask is, and I represent kind of the lay viewer, the viewer that may not really understand what we're discussing here. So can you tell our viewers what the responsibilities of a state's attorneys are?
In a very simple fashion, the responsibility of a state's attorney is to keep you all safe.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So I would be the chief law enforcement officer of the state. I would also represent the county, and I would advise county officials. So I would help. What I mean by keep you safe is I want to have more of a preventive measures to keep you safe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the state's attorney's office. Yes, they prosecute individuals that commit crimes, but what they can also do is something I've done for 15 years. I actually have done this with Judge Shadid. Go into the schools, talk about clinical intervention, prevention measures. Okay. It's just not simple. Just as not as simple as prosecuting people and making sure the kid knows not to do it again. Yeah. We need to make sure that kids and parents know how to keep each other safe and how to help individuals that may be problem children. I've seen too many situations as someone who's a defense attorney. The parents have told me, well, we can't have Johnny back in the house because he's going to affect the other kids.
Right.
And what we want to do is give parents the resources, the treatment necessary to help them reintegrate that child back into the house. Because if you have a kid who's been at the JDC, some kids may look at the JDC as a place where they can go play basketball, hang out, but the kid's not realizing they're missing school on a daily basis. Yes, they're getting schooling in there, but they're missing the normal interaction at their school, and they're also missing the fact that when they come back to the school, everyone's going to want to know where you been for a month. And so I think that simply locking people up is not the answer, because that makes us less safe. We want to be able to inform people, look, this is how you get help, and these are the measures we want to help you attain so you can break the cycle of criminality. Because truly what it is a cycle of criminality. In the 80s, they used to say, well, there are the same 4 or 5 families that are causing trouble. Now, in 2020, it's you have not just certain families that are causing trouble, but you have neighborhoods that are causing trouble.
I was about to say, you have blocks.
You have certain blocks that are dangerous.
They're organized.
And I'm not talking about a flood.
Organized.
Right. I'm not talking about a flood approach where we go into neighborhoods and flood them with police officers. I'm talking about a precise and strategic measure to go after individuals that are causing the violence. I remember a day when we all could hang outside and sit on the porch and just, talk, play basketball, trade baseball cards. In certain neighborhoods, you can't do that anymore.
Can't do that anymore.
You have parents and you have kids that when they get home, they are literally running from their car inside of their house if they see certain individuals outside with backpacks.
In front of their own house.
In front of their own house.
Right.
Yeah, and so we have to change it here.
Question. So if those who don't know, I started at Peoria Public Schools as the athletic director in August, and I've been on the job for about 5 or 6 months now. And I get an opportunity to see teachers and principals on the front lines and trying to keep our schools safe, keep our discipline our kids the right way without punishing them to the extreme, but trying to get them help, all those necessary things. Are we any closer curriculum-wise to educating our youth about the law, more than just a government class or anything like that, to where they can understand what's right and what's wrong? A lot of these kids don't know, like you just said, you go into a house and you break into my house and jump somebody, that's a home invasion. It's not jumping somebody on the street and everybody should just go home, and how that can negatively affect that kid. Are we any closer to that, and are there restrictions on that? And I'm uneducated about that, so I'm asking myself.
Well, that is one of the things we want to do. We would like to partner with Peoria Public Schools. Dr. Karat has done a very good job, especially recently, on those preventive measures, along with Carl Holloway. Carl Holloway, I see him in the courthouse all the time, working with youth who've been in trouble.
Shout out Dr. Karat and Carl Holloway.
Absolutely. Carl Holloway, Karat,
community. Yes.
Very good people. They're likely to be in this seat next time.
And so we are definitely getting there, and I appreciate their efforts. But
and those are real efforts.
Yes.
These are not things that dissipate when there's no attention to them. Carl is one of the people that is up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and sometimes the first thing I see is Good Morning World or whatever. I'm not even on Facebook. I usually just scroll through, but this is the type of energy he puts out on a daily basis, and Karat is no different. And they have both been behind greatness of the city for a long time, and we're only just now starting to see the impact of that. So these are two real people. That's why I say they're likely to be in this hot seat. And it's not really hot though.
It's okay. It's okay. I've been in hot seats before. But definitely, they are doing a great job. And what I want to do is continue those efforts. But I think if I do those efforts and I'm able to explain to the kids, hey, not only is what Dr. Karat and Carl is saying is accurate, but you have to understand that if you don't do what they suggest, you got to come see me. And this is that heat that comes when you have to come see, someone who is the prosecutor. And so there would not be any acceptance of violence. because I'll tell you this. This is one thing that I find that is one of the saddest thing about violence is you can go 3 weeks without food. You can go 3 days without water, but you can die instantaneously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so I'm gonna take every measure I can to make people safe and help us maintain safety. Mm-hmm. But the way I'm going to go about that is to let them know what happens when they have to go there.
So your platform is not incarceration; it's rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm. Rehabilitation and prevention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
perfect.
so yes, so we want to prevent people from getting into the court system because let's face it, growing up, I've made mistakes.
We all have.
But I didn't get caught.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Just to
and
be
you
real.
learn from
I learned from
other
them,
people's mistakes.
and I learned not to do them again after I made the mistake.
Sherry from Pekin asks, what programs will you have?
Well, what I'm going to have is a first offender prevention program. What that means is for individuals that have nonviolent crime, they come and they get in trouble. For example, they do something stupid like shoot stop signs with a BB gun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to try to, if it's the first time they've been in trouble,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give them a chance to get the treatment necessary, to do the community service, and necessary to pay the fine. And they complete all the services and the treatment, mental health therapy if necessary, then the case is going to go away without jamming up their criminal record with the conviction. Mm-hmm. I want to also have a recent trauma and abuse court. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is I want to work with the judges, have individuals who've been victims of trauma, and they get in trouble for nonviolent crime. If that history of trauma can be proven, same thing. Mm-hmm. Get them therapy, get them treatment, and prevent them from spiraling into more criminality. Mm-hmm. A good example of individuals you can see who may have had a history of trauma. Recent movie, The Joker.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they talked about how his history of trauma never got treated, and it manifested into more criminality. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things we're looking to stop. Additionally, another thing we're looking to do is for kids that are heading down the bad path, I want to have a voluntary jury system for them. Mm-hmm. What that is essentially is I want kids to understand how hard it is to participate in a jury trial. Right. I'm going to have kids who work with the schools, if they'll allow me to, have kids participate as jurors, mm-hmm. as prosecutors, as defense attorneys. And so when someone...
Make them a part of the process.
Make them a part of the process. So they'll see when they're 18 or 20 years old, if they get in trouble, this is not the smoke you want.
Right, yeah.
Because you have to come to a unanimous decision mm-hmm. when you're on the jury, and oftentimes the judge ain't gonna let you leave until that decision is unanimous. Mm-hmm. And we all know sometimes that is not always advantageous for people who are sitting in that defense table. Right. Yeah. And so we want them to understand what the system is like and what the process is like and why you want to stay out of it. Mm-hmm. I do this game, and I've been doing it when I go to kids and visit them at different schools, and I say, hey, let's order a pizza, but the pizza has to be, we all have to agree what is on the pizza. Mm-hmm. Usually what we end up is with a pizza crust and sauce and nothing else.
Right.
Because it has to be unanimous.
They can't agree.
Yeah, they can't agree.
They can't agree on pizza.
Right, and so that's what happens with
they
the
couldn't agree on the cheese.
Right.
You gotta have the cheese.
And we're not even talking about stuff in 2020 like gluten-free and vegan stuff. Now you're going to probably end up with some cauliflower.
Hey, just on that, whichever one of y'all kids said no cheese to mess that up from even getting started, shame on you.
Right.
That's not a pizza, okay? Get raviolis. You'll be better with those.
Right, and so that's what people have to understand is what happens when you get into the system. It has to be a unanimous decision, and oftentimes certain people walk away on the short end of the stick.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, let's see here. We have a couple more good questions here. This is from Trent, and Trent is from East Peoria. Hello, Trent. What is the most exciting part about your campaign, which is what I'm excited about right now? So for you, what's the most thrilling part?
The most thrilling part is meeting the new people. Meeting the new people, and I created this curriculum for the State's Attorney's Office back in August of 2019, and I did it with a handful of followers in the room, and now we are beginning to catch fire, and I absolutely love that. I love meeting the people who follow us and who talk about the campaign. They're excited, and they say, hey, we've never had it, someone who, well, let's face it, an African American state's attorney here in Peoria County, and they say, hey, we want you to win because of your ideas, and I love that. I love that. I look forward to representing people in Norwood and Chillicothe and Peoria.
See, this is what I'm talking about when I say a real person. So anybody can see that there is a lack of diversity in the state's attorneys that we've had. So instead of that being his campaign, I'm the first African American, I'm the first black, he doesn't even talk like that. It's not even part of his makeup, part of his vocabulary. It's what am I going to do different? And that right there, if you can't respect that, then, I mean, there's few things that you probably do respect. But that's one of those things where I say is integrity. And you cannot warp your integrity at all. Once you lose that, it's gone. And I've never heard this man use his race to his advantage. If anything, he blankets it to where it's not even noticed. Because it's overshadowed by ideas and by the desire to try to help, to want to help, and to make everything better. So those things are important for me when I look for a candidate. So he's not on a gimmick. This is some real. Those in the street, when you see an abbreviation FR, that means for real. And that's what we got right here. So I just want to point that out, and my bad for interrupting you, but that's one of the things that really impress and I think inspire other people. If you can take anything that's a gimmick, like, I should work here doing shuffs because I'm taller instead of, your skill level. This is what I'm saying. I mean, he's got so many things that he can take advantage of that he's done accomplishment-wise, but it's still, what more can I do to help? And that just impresses me every second.
If the crime rate continues to increase, they're not going to care what color I am. They're going to care whether or not I kept them safe.
Yeah.
And so that is very important that people understand that I truly believe I have a platform that is going to break the cycle of violence in Peoria, and it has to be broken.
Some powerful words right there. Okay. We're going to Ren, and Ren is actually from Creve Coeur, so it's a little far out. Ren says, when will your campaign end?
Well, I am a Democrat, and the Democratic primary ends March 17, 2020, St. Patrick's Day. And so individuals, they have to come vote St. Patrick's Day. So after the parade or before the parade, make sure you go vote. And you have to pull a Democratic primary to vote for the next state's attorney. If we are successful in winning the primary, we will move on to the general election. And of course, the general election will align with the presidential election in November 2020.
Okay, this might follow along the next question too. Same household with Trent is Kevin. Kevin says, how do we vote for you specifically? And that's what you just touched on. Can you say that, just elaborate just a little bit? So no matter where we go to, what are we doing? What's the procedure?
Okay. You have to vote. We want you to vote. You can do early voting, February 6, 2020. You can go to the Peoria Election Commission and vote there, early voting. Also, what you can also do is you can vote March 17, 2020, which is Election Day. So, Election Day, you can go to your normal precinct, and what you can do is pull a Democratic ballot, and you can vote for the state's attorney. You cannot vote for the state's attorney if you pull a Republican ballot, because there are two Democrats that are running for the state's attorney's office, me and my opponent. So, you have to pull a Democratic ballot, and you have to vote Chris McCall for Peoria County State's Attorney. That's the way you vote for us.
Perfect. I have got one last question for you. Do you have anything?
No, keep rolling.
Okay. The last question, this is from Shelly, and Shelly says that she lived here for a long time, but she's recently moving back. She loves everything that she sees you doing for the kids. Her question is to you is, how is your family handling this campaign?
Besides the fact that Dad's not cooking as much on the weekends anymore, I think they're handling it pretty well. And so my kids are very well adjusted. I have a 12-year-old who's in 7th grade. I have, of course, a 19-year-old. She'll be, she is actually 19. She just turned 19, and so she is doing very well with this. And my wife is doing very well with this, and they're excited, and they like to see people excited, and they like to see Dad's name on the yard signs and whatnot. So
Oh, I know you saw my sign, right?
I saw your sign. I saw your sign. Yes.
Yeah, baby.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the family's 100% behind you.
100% behind me, and it seems to be Peoria County is very behind us as well. I look forward to March 17th. Let's see what we
March 17th. Okay, March 17th. We need you to get out there and handle your business.
And I'm gonna clear up some misconception. I have a lot of people who ask me this. Felons can vote. Okay, and so there's a narrative going around that individuals who have been in the system can't vote. It is very important that people who've been in the system and out of the system vote, because this election, the state's attorney, as a chief law enforcement officer of Peoria County, affects everyone. This race will affect you more than it will the presidential race. And I want people to understand that, because these are policies that are going to affect you day to day, and these are policies I truly believe can make us safer, using my 17 years as an attorney, working as a prosecutor, working as a defense attorney, working as a hearing officer for Peoria Public Schools. I truly believe that if the message is spread, people will vote, and I look forward to representing them.
I guess the last thing is there anything that you wanted to specifically address to anybody out there? Any last minute messages you want to shout out?
Thank you for everyone. Thank you for all the support. Let go, let God. Let's do this all together. Truly stronger together. Thank you.
It is. Thank you. We're going to go to a quick break, and we will be back. All right.
Let's go.
That was fun. Absolutely. Now, I'm on social media a little bit, and I've been seeing a lot about, there's a lot of articles you just can't read and believe all the time. There's so many different people posting stuff. But I did see a lot about human trafficking, and I was wondering, is that true? Is that a big thing going on here in Peoria, and has it increased over the last 10 years, 5 or 10 years?
It is a huge thing in Peoria, and as I said, I'm going to go talk to the neighborhoods and community centers. This is the way human trafficking often works. It's someone is given a drug like heroin, and it's injected in them, and then that person is kidnapped, and they're being taken across the road, different parts of the country, and they're being trafficked. They're being sold. They're also being prostituted, which obviously is selling another human as well. And so those things are happening here. These things are also happening day to day, and people don't notice it. There are signs of human trafficking, and I have to be careful because of this race, but if you go in certain facilities and you have individuals that provide services and 10 or 12 people are in the back of that facility, those are signs of sex trafficking. So it is, some of the personal services that go around in Peoria, shall I say that, personal services, things that have been on Craigslist, things that have been on the dark web.
So these things are all on your radar.
These things are on our radar, and they became on my radar as someone who was a board member for the Center for Prevention of Abuse. So we learned about it, we learned about the signs, and these are things that happen every single day. There are a lot of people who are in the sex trade business, and they've come up missing all over the country. And I think it is very important that we let people know the signs, that we let individuals know how important it is to stay safe and have a safe lifestyle so they won't get wrapped up in that.
Right. I've always thought about that. Now being in education, in secondary education, I always thought about, like, when we were coming up, it was always, your parents kind of raised you, and the village was right behind them. Everybody was together. And I think times have changed a little bit, and I think we continue to think, oh, it should be like this. It should be like this. And I'm saying that because the earlier you can get to our children and get our parents' attention, the better. And things like that, in my opinion, should be taught. It should be discussed within a school day. We should be educating our young kids about. We didn't have to get educated as much when we were young. We were told, don't walk to a stranger's car. We just didn't do it.
Don't talk to strangers.
Don't talk to strangers.
And if you weren't home by the time the lights came on, the parents were in the car yelling, Alex! And you knew, Alex, when you heard your name, you knew what was going to happen when you got home.
And
You done messed
but
up.
nowadays the parents are at work.
They not.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Or they just getting home, or we're headed home, and
Or texting, find out what's going on with the text.
You know, I just would like to see the education about things outside of let's just learn math. Let's just learn.
Right.
Of course, we want to learn how to do math and read, but
Let's
now
bring
we have
economics
to,
back too, can we?
Yeah, now we have to put more of an emphasis on those
Life
little
skills.
things that were natural to us.
Right.
That we were out in the parks playing all the time, and we knew something wasn't right. When
Right.
somebody walking up, and I know back in the day there was some dudes, some guys in the hoods and in the streets that you just knew he come, we running, you know.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah,
was,
everybody got a Debo.
Everybody had one. So
But here's the difference. I'll explain this
Yeah,
too.
go ahead.
Yeah, we all had Debos growing up,
Yeah.
and but here's the thing,
I'm just gonna tuck mine in.
right? Debos now have social media.
Yeah, for sure.
And so growing up, if we saw Debo, like you said, AJ, we could run from Debo, go the other side, or we knew his patterns and rhythms come on out. Now Debo can tell whether or not you read his text message.
Yes.
He can
The
tell.
location.
He can get your location 24/7.
Yeah.
And if you don't give him your location, then you're going to have that problem when he does find you. And so that's very important that we teach our kids how to remain safe, how to stay safe,
Yes.
who to contact. And so we have to build that trust back up. And we can't keep doing the same things we did in the 80s
Don't work.
because it's a
Yeah,
different
don't
world
work.
in 2020. It
Absolutely.
really is. Because my life would have been a lot different if we had social media back when we were growing up in 1990,
Yeah.
1995.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
Exactly. And I just think that we need to include those things in our teachings, in our curriculum for our kids now more than ever. We just didn't have to do it back then, but it's not back then. We got to get in touch with our kids, create those relationships with them to where they can trust us. And I think those conversations, people think they're tough, but kids actually like to have those conversations because it heightens their awareness.
right, and another thing that's very important we do is individuals like us who grew up here have to continue to give back. There are certain groups of children, and I hate to say it, they feel that they don't have as much hope.
Yep.
And so they feel that they are stuck and they're stuck in the cycle. And so I want to use that office to make it the people's office. Use individuals that came here, became successful, left, stayed, and help bring them in contact with our children so they can see and realize that there is hope.
Yes.
They can break this cycle, and that they
There's
don't.
other people that went through this.
Right,
with them.
right. They don't have to look up to the individual who is selling illegal pharmaceuticals.
Exactly.
That is not the person that you want to look up to. You want to look up to people who, who became Big Ten Player of the Year, who got their education. Most importantly, got their education and came back to give back to Peoria County. And that's what I want to. Those are the people I want to elevate. We need to change who our mentors are.
That's one thing I noticed the most upon returning back to Peoria. We don't celebrate those, we know Sean Livingston, we know XYZ, but there are people who are doing real things that are on the front lines that are putting their time in, but we don't highlight that. And we got to do a better job. Historically, I'm talking over the last 30 years, there's so many people, such as yourself, coming in and effecting change the right way, but like you said, we let them go ahead and stray towards the drug dealer.
Well, and it's also having realistic goals.
Absolutely.
I mean, you would know the stat better than I do, but what is it? What, 1 out of every 50,000 people actually make it to the NBA?
Yeah, that's the worst. 1 in a million.
1 in a million. 1 in a million.
Yes.
And so I think it is easier for someone to become an accountant, obviously, than it is for them to become an NBA player. And so we have to play towards the odds.
Yes.
And I want to use that office to get people to play towards the odds and to get out the cycle of criminality.
Yes. I love sports, but sports for me more introduces kids to social skills, leadership, competitiveness, because that's what you're going to need as you
Discipline.
to drive discipline, to drive your campaign and drive the things that you want to put in place. But like you said, I just read a stat that said like 1% of all high school kids get a Division I scholarship. That's like 1%.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like these numbers are sometimes outrageous when it comes to like not everybody can do it.
Exactly.
And I think we're part to blame because we made it look easy back in the 80s and 90s because a lot of people were going on to use sports to get an education, but it wasn't easy. We were just talented.
Right.
So I think I try to use basketball, not only sports, not only just to play, but let's learn how to be social. Let's learn how to lead. Let's learn how to do those things. And I think
learn how to lose.
Yeah, learn how to lose. Learn how to lose. And that's a big thing going on. We talk about it in the sports segment. But just all those things. I think you're highlighting that. And I think getting to those parents and creating those relationships is the place to start. Back then it was a village. And I'm in the system, kind of the school system now, and I kind of see the disconnect between our teachers and our principals and our parents. 2 or 3 people show up at a parent-teacher conference in a school with 500 in it. That's a disconnect. It's just nobody's fault. But I think we have to reimagine. That was the words of Dr. Karat. We have to reimagine how we approach growing up today. It's not like we were.
We have to inspire and achieve in spite of societal factors.
Yes, sir.
That's what we have to get better at.
Shout out from our sponsors. That is Boost Mobile Peoria, Mohammed Zaid. He says switch to Boost Mobile from a non-Sprint carrier and get the LG Stylo 5 for free. Just pay the first month bill, setup fee, and sales tax. Get unlimited talk, text, gigs for just $50 a month.
This is a nice phone.
Yes, it is. It's an Android 9.0 Pi Qualcomm Snapdragon with a 1.8 gigahertz octa-core processor, 32 gigs. You got great new features on it. You can even create your personal emoji, rear camera, 5mm front wide angle with the portrait mode, and auto shot face recognition. Unlock the screen with the facial scan. So get down with it.
And it's got the stylus too?
Yeah. It's wonderful.
Okay, perfect. So get that phone today from Boost Mobile. Let them know that you saw it on the AJ and Titus show, and they're going to drop that price for you.
Where you at?
Alex.